and welcome. I'm Donnegal and I'm going to help you write that story you've always been dreaming about. Today, we're going to talk about generating story ideas and testing their strength to see if they can carry your novel. This isn't as daunting as it might seem at first, but it is incredibly important if you want to save yourself some time. My favorite method of generating story ideas is to keep a dream journal. I have been keeping one since 2013 and it has helped me generate several story ideas. A lot of the times it won't give you the whole idea, it'll just give you little nuggets and then you can even piece them together. Also, if you're into dreams, keeping a dream journal will help you dream more frequently and more vividly. Basically, to keep a dream journal, you'll wake up after having a dream. That'll be the first thing you do. You want to reach for that dream journal and you're going to write down everything you can remember, even if it doesn't really make sense or if it's just little snippets. Sometimes I'll just remember, oh, we were at a park, there was a duck fell out of the sky, or something crazy like that. Sometimes I'll get impressions of how I was feeling when I had the dream, or something that I hadn't noticed that could connect if there's just a little bridge between them. At first, you probably won't remember too much, you'll probably just remember the fragmentations, but as you keep the journal, you'll start to remember more and experience more in your dreams. I don't write down everything. I do love nightmares, but if I find that that nightmare really freaked me out, I won't write down. Another thing that keeping a dream journal will do is sometimes it'll have me have the same dream more often, or it'll have the same type of dream occur more often. So that's kind of what's percolating in the back of my brain. At least that's my theory on it. Oftentimes the ones that I do write down, I can go sift through again later and find little nuggets of ideas and inspiration. Another method that's really great is to reread your favorite books. The books that speak to you, make it so you can't put them down. That can help you get an idea of genre that you like, the types of characters you like, or tropes that you enjoy. For example, some of my favorite books, Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber, Lockwood & Co series by Jonathan Stroud's really great. Just try to pin down what it is in those stories that really goes ahead and sparks feelings and inspiration for you. Another thing, you can also just read a ton of different genres. Maybe it's not necessarily that you don't have ideas, it's you're trying to shove yourself into a genre that you aren't that passionate about, or you actually haven't read too much of and you don't feel like you can actually generate the idea for that subconsciously. So maybe you're more of a sci-fi writer and that just clicks for you, or you're more of a romance writer or a contemporary writer or fantasy or thriller, horror. I find that I like to write a lot of darker stuff. Experiment and see what speaks to you, or even with different authors. You can see that this author is very descriptive. This author really focuses on characters super well. This one has a super long drawn, complicated plot, but it all works together and moves together at the end, that kind of thing. And sometimes that can just help jog something new in your brain, and that can spark a new idea. Maybe your brain hadn't percolated on this type of subject before. You can also look within your own life and experiences for content to write with. I personally struggle with that one, but it can go and help with soul searching and thinking about past experiences. I personally do not enjoy doing this thus far, or maybe that just comes out as I'm writing without me realizing, which can happen. If those methods aren't working, then maybe your issue isn't working on such a large scale. There are tropes, and you can even use these to generate ideas. Go look up a giant list of tropes and then see which ones resonate with you, see if you can pair some of them together and then have an idea pop into your head. An example of tropes would be forced proximity. Your two characters are forced to be in this situation together. A lot of times they're forced to rely on each other. This works really well for enemies to lovers. Another trope would be one bed, billionaire, boss employee, found family, those kind of things. Another thing that you can do is you can choose a setting or an environment, and then you can think of what sorts of things would live there. You can think about plants, you can think about animals, you can think about the people that you would have there. Let's say that it's an ocean people, they live in Atlantis. So they would have a lot of fish around, and they would probably see the world very differently than most people, or maybe they'd have some old texts about how Atlantis fell. And you can also think about what kind of problems would come from that. So under the ocean, there would still be earthquakes. You probably wouldn't have to worry about flooding since it is under the ocean, but you definitely have to worry about more predators, so sharks, whales even, things like that. You can look at photographs. I took a short story writing class once, and one of the assignments was we had to choose a picture from this list of pictures and we had to write a short story about it. Another way to generate ideas, if you want to just write a short story, see what happens, what jumps out onto the page, you can expand it into a novel later. And You can even just start with having a name. Sometimes a name will pop in my head and I'll really like it and I'll find it super pretty. And I'll start thinking about, well, what kind of setting would this name fit? What kind of character would this name fit in my room? For me, that's a huge part of having character, is they have to have a name before I can fully visualize them in my head. They just kind of fit with the name rather than just putting a name on top of someone I already have seen in my head. I've also had it where I will think of a couple of names that kind of go together, and then I will just have to keep digging until I can figure out what characters they fit with, what world they live in, and what kind of story they could go and go on, what kind of journey. You can go ahead and think about what kind of journey you want these characters to go on. You can think about your theme, what kind of misbelief or fatal flaw that these characters will have, and you can design them around that, and you can craft the story to fit the flaw first. Now that you have your ideas and ways to generate these story ideas, let's talk about how to test their strengths. A big portion of expanding your ideas into a novel is to constantly ask why. Here are some questions that will help you decide. What about that idea draws you in? What is the lure for you to want to explore it further? What's the most important element and why? Are there any potential conflicts in this idea? Conflict in their environment and relationships? Are there subplots with this idea that you can explore further? Is there a clear antagonist, even if that is also your protagonist? Or is it not necessarily a character antagonist, but is something in the environment? Could the story take place in a specific location and place, or a specific and concrete time? Once you have the beginnings of your ideas, you can go ahead and just start free writing. Try not to think too much about it, just anything that pops into your head, write it down as long as it's relevant to that idea. Go ahead and see what you can get on the paper. I personally like to go and do that with scenes. So going back to the dream journal idea, if I only dreamt of one scene, I'll write that down and then think of what other kinds of situations the characters might be in and how that can feed into a plot. And that's it for today. Comment below if you found this helpful, hit the like button if you enjoyed it, and subscribe down below so you don't miss the next video where we are going to talk about outlining, creating a novel blueprint, and different parts of story specifically. Hope to see you there. Until next time.